What's good out there, Liquid Trucking? Welcome in to the Liquid Trucking Podcast, episode 27. And I'm very excited to have you all here today. Thank you so much for joining me, your host, Marcus, as we embark on yet another podcast adventure with Liquid Trucking. Today's episode is very exciting because we have a couple of the gentlemen responsible for some of the great equipment that Liquid utilizes coming on the show today. Adam Quinn, Director of Specialty Sales with Wabash, and Jordan Kastein, Manager of Regional Sales with Wabash, will join us here just around the corner with Operations Manager from Liquid, Gabe Schmidt. We're going to talk about what sets Wabash trailers apart from the rest of the industry, why Liquid utilizes them, and some of the things that Liquid likes about the trailers. Plus, we'll get a peek behind the curtain of some new innovations that might be coming around the corner for these awesome Wabash trailers. Before we get into that, I've got a little bit of homework, and we're going to touch on some breaking news here in just a moment. But don't forget, if you want to be on this podcast, you have something that you want to hear on this podcast, or maybe you'd just like to learn a little bit more about it, head on over to liquidtrucking.com. And right at the top of the page there, you'll see my big dumb face pointing at the Learn More button. Click that. It will take you to our podcast landing page. You'll be able to learn about the people that were on the show with us. You can check out all of our episodes there. There's also a contact. And of course, if you just want to shoot us an email, you're always more than welcome to podcast@liquidtrucking.com. It's that simple. So what's next? Well, I already told you. I teased it, as we like to say in the industry. Let's get to some breaking news. Breaking news coming to you courtesy of FreightWaves for this article and the following one. FreightWaves says that tractor trailer thefts in Mexico totaled 153 in the month of April. That averages about 5 cargo truck thefts per day, and this all comes from the National Association of Vehicle Tracking and Protection Companies. Tractor trailer thefts in April increased 7.7%, according to the article, from the same month last year. The National Association of Vehicle Tracking and Protection Companies reported a total of 546 tractor trailer thefts from January through April, which is a 5% year-over-year increase. During the first 4 months of the year, the state of Mexico ranked number 1 in cargo thefts with 138 cases, followed by the states of Puebla, Hidalgo, and Jalisco. The ANERPV, which is that National Association of Vehicle Tracking and Protection Companies, says 33% of cargo truck thefts took place between 7 a.m. and noon, 28% between noon and 7 p.m., and 22% at night, and 17% in the early morning. So that's a little bit shocking there, that most of the thefts are taking place between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., not when you're sleeping in your truck at night or something like that. The Mexican Association of Insurance Institutions, which includes and tracks cargo thefts, said that Kenworth tractor trailers are the most stolen trucks across Mexico, followed by Freightliner and International tractors. More than 70%, and this is big, you guys, more than 70% of cargo theft cases in Mexico also involve some type of violence. That's really scary, okay? And I don't know how many of you drivers, if any of you from Liquid, are actually making it down across the border into Mexico. But if you are, stay safe out there, because theft is increasing of tractor trailers, and it doesn't look like they're just taking the vans, fellas. They're taking everything that they can. They'll take the whole truck, and they will be violent to do so. So if you are down there, if you know anybody that is, make sure you're staying vigilant and watching your back. This next article coming out of FreightWaves is entitled "Pair Indicted in Slaying of Louisiana Staged Accident Suspect Who Was Cooperating with the Scheme." This is crazy. We've all heard about Operation Sideswipe down in Louisiana, where there were 50 people that were colluding to basically get into accidents with semi-truck drivers and then bleed those companies' insurance dry in the settlements. Now, what happened here is this gentleman, whose name is Cornelius Garrison, was an alleged conspirator in the Louisiana staged accident scam. He was then gunned down in his New Orleans home on September 22nd, 2020, 4 days after he was indicted in the scheme to stage collisions with trucks with the goal of prying insurance payments out of the trucking companies. Ryan Harris, who's 35, and Giovanna Gardner, who's 39, were indicted by the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Louisiana. The indictments were announced on Monday, and they are indicted with murder, okay? Because it's looking like what happened here is that, well, we had a scheme. We had a bunch of people involved in it. Cornelius Garrison was a co-conspirator with Ryan Harris and Giovanna Gardner, and they, according to federal prosecutors, murdered Cornelius in his home in some sort of hope that he wouldn't be able to testify against them. This thing just keeps getting deeper and deeper. Like I said, we've got 50 co-conspirators here who have been charged in Operation Sideswipe. And Harris and Gardner do not appear to have been indicted earlier in the case for the actual participation in the staged accidents. And the mail and wire fraud charges, along with the murder-related charges, appear to be a catch-up by prosecutors. So hopefully the ringleaders of this whole thing are getting their comeuppance, if you will. And, hopefully these people rot in prison forever for murdering somebody. That's terrible. Even more terrible than bleeding all these insurance companies and trucking companies dry by staging accidents with trucks. It's unthinkable, really, when you think about the safety aspect of this job as much as we do on this podcast, that there could be a bunch of jackwagons out there that are actually trying to cause accidents, putting people's life and limbs in jeopardy in doing so. It's terrible. You hate to hear it. And it looks like federal prosecutors are well on their way to putting the people that were involved in that case behind bars. This next story comes from CDLLife.com. It says agents seized almost $500,000 in cocaine hidden amongst a load of cotton candy in Texas earlier this month. The contraband was found on May 9th inside of a tractor trailer that was crossing the World Trade Bridge near Laredo, Texas. According to the Laredo Morning Times, U.S. Customs and Border Protection agents used a K9 and X-ray equipment to uncover the 15 packages made up of 37 pounds of cocaine hidden inside the load of cotton candy. There's a quote here, actually, from Albert Flores of the Laredo Port of Entry. He says, "Our frontline officers continue to maintain resolute vigilance, and that dedication to the mission, coupled with an effective use of technology, resulted in the interception of a significant amount of cocaine." The found cocaine had an estimated value of $496,879, and no further information has been released, but we'll keep you updated on that story if there's anything else worth talking about. And finally, coming in from CDL Life, I saved this one for last because it's my favorite story. House Bill 533, authored by Representative Clay Handy, will go into effect on July 1st in Idaho after being signed into law by Governor Brad Little. Now, what is House Bill 533, you ask? Well, let me tell you. A new law amends existing regulations related to vehicle mufflers and noise prevention to allow truckers to idle while parked under certain circumstances. Under the new law, truckers may allow their vehicle to idle, quote, for the purpose of using the vehicle's heating or air conditioning system, as long as the driver is parked for the purposes of resting or sleeping. Truckers are also permitted to use auxiliary power units to provide heating or air conditioning to the vehicle under the new law. The law also permits truckers to idle while parked if they are hauling refrigerated perishable loads, pharmaceuticals, or both. Handy has served twice as the president of the Idaho Trucking Association and comes from a trucking family. And we are happy, those of us who live adjacent to the state of Idaho at least, are happy that Mr. Handy is out there representing for the trucking industry. And, you know, this is one of those things I've heard some drivers complain about is these idle restrictions. Well, Idaho is kind of turning this whole thing on its head for you guys. And I hope that for those of you that end up out there in Idaho, you can take advantage of this. I'm not really sure how it's going to affect drivers that tanker yankers, if you will. I know that we've got great units on these trucks, and they're very well outfitted to keep you guys comfortable. But if nothing else, we tip a cap to our brethren in the dry van and reefer trucks out there who can now idle a little bit more comfortably in the state of Idaho. That wraps up the breaking news today. Again, big thanks to CDL Life and FreightWaves for those articles. Highly recommend both of those websites if you're looking to catch up on your trucking industry news. We're going to go ahead and dive into talking about Wabash trailers right now on the Liquid Trucking Podcast.
Welcome to the gold standard of podcasts for the gold standard of drivers. This is the Liquid Trucking Podcast with your host, Marcus Bridges.
Joining me next here on the Liquid Trucking Podcast, it's a segment I'm very excited for because we've got a full house. We've got two people joining us here from Wabash Trailer. I've got Adam Quinn, the Director of Specialty Sales, on the line. Adam, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I've also got Jordan Kastein, Manager of Regional Sales at Wabash. Jordan, thank you so much for being here.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yes, and I've also got seasoned pro of the podcast, as we just established off the air, operations manager for Liquid Trucking, Gabe Schmidt, joining us. Gabe, we appreciate the time as always.
Thanks again.
So we're here to talk trailers today, fellas. Obviously, Wabash is a name. If you're driving down the highway and you see the back of a semi-truck trailer, pretty high likelihood that it's going to say Wabash on the back of it. I paid attention this weekend when I was driving around. I saw so many of your trailers, and I didn't even leave town. So I just love that we've got two guys here that can really talk to us about what's going on behind the scenes at Wabash. And I want to start with you, Adam, real quick. Can you talk to me about the relationship that Wabash has with Liquid Trucking, just kind of from the outset?
Yeah, absolutely. So Liquid Trucking and Wabash have been working together as far back as 2009. Roger Schmidt and Ron Bruff, who was, our predecessor, mine and Jordan's, formerly with Wabash, had worked together from 2009 to 2019. And I actually came into the mix at that time. So my first visit was with Roger in June of 2019, and the following visit was with Gabe, Josh, and Bo. And it was really cool to see that transition, and especially to see how far the business has come since that time. We truly appreciate the partnership we have with OFC, and we enjoy supporting their growth. We have a very transparent relationship. I feel like we bounce things off each other very well. In that transparency, we can provide responses and solutions to OFC issues at a faster speed, helping increase their customer satisfaction. And overall, the team at OFC, they're just generally good people. They care about their employees, and we appreciate that opportunity to support them.
Well said there. And just because of my role here with Liquid as just the podcast host, I get a lot of that from Liquid employees. I hear stories about the way that Liquid has picked them up when they're down, stories about the entire community coming together and repairing not only the shop, but their homes during an epic 500-year flood. This is a phenomenal company, and it really does care about their employees. And Jordan, I want to go to you here because you're actually the only one I'm seeing on camera right now, and you smiled back when Adam said that you have a very transparent relationship with Liquid. Can you talk to me a little bit about what was bouncing around in your head when he said that? Because I could tell that it resonated with you.
Yeah, I just think we have a very open and honest relationship, right? And that's huge from a customer. When you can speak freely and just have open and honest dialogue with each other, it makes for a fun conversation. And, it's nobody's ever afraid to hurt anyone's feelings. We say what needs to be said, and we're able to work together and get the job done. So it's a fun group of guys. We've had some good times, with some golf competition last year. We all got together and did some golfing in the summer together. So we've had a lot of good times, both on and off the field, so to speak. So.
That's great. Well, if you guys ever need a fourth, call me up. It's a little bit of a long drive for me out to Nebraska, but I'll make it for golf. I'll go anywhere for that.
We're planning another one this summer. Preliminary talks with Josh last week, so hopefully in the next couple months we'll make that happen. So
I love it. That's great. Jordan, can you talk to me a little bit about what sets Liquid apart from some of your other customers? Now, obviously, I know you guys love all your customers, right? They're all great additions to the Wabash family, but we're here talking about Liquid today. So talk to me about some of the unique aspects that you've noticed in working with Liquid Trucking.
Yeah, and one, I think, as I said, they're very easy to work with. And two, they have a very good handle on their business. And that's the products that they're hauling and the people that they're dealing with. And, in the chemical industry and transporting chemicals, it's very important to know what you're hauling and the products you're dealing with and the customer bases you're dealing with. And I think they just have a really great handle on all of that as a whole.
Gabe, obviously we've been running Wabash tanks for a long time here. We've already established that. From your perspective as operations manager there at Liquid, why is my question? Why Wabash? Tell me about it.
Well, I think it goes back to what Adam and Jordan were talking about, is the relationship. They're very easy to talk to, and nobody's ever trying to sell you anything. These guys aren't trying to sell us anything. I mean, you're never putting on that big sales pitch. They're never putting on the big sales pitch. We can just freely talk about what the problems are and what we need. And there's other companies that make decent trailers, but it just comes back to the relationship and the customer service. I think that's about at least half of the deal to me.
Sure.
So they not only have a good product, but it's the relationship that goes along with it.
I was looking over the website over at Wabash's website, excuse me, and I clicked on the culture tab because it's always something that I'm interested to learn more about when we have a vendor come on here, because I know culture is very important at Liquid. We've already established that. It's a great company to work for. Everybody it forms a real sense of community around Liquid. And I'm just going to read an excerpt from that spot on your website there, fellas. It says, "People, purpose, and performance drive our business. We aren't ordinary. We aren't conventional. We aren't like everyone else. There's something special happening here. At Wabash, it's our focus on people, purpose, and performance that drives us to do better so we can continue changing how the world reaches you." Adam, if you could talk to me a little bit about how that lines up just so perfectly with Liquid. I mean, obviously, you guys put a lot of thought behind the way that you run your company and the culture and everything, and Liquid does too. Does that make it just a match made in heaven for you all over there at Wabash?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, we keep coming back to the assimilation of the different groups. I mean, but Wabash has almost 7,000 employees. Right. And I'm actually part of what's called the Culture Council at Wabash. We're just constantly working on how do we make it a better place for our employees. And you need that, like I said, spread out force throughout the company at that size to be effective. And that's what we do. I see it, again, without calling it the Culture Council. I see that with Gabe, Josh, and Bull, and the group that we work with at OFC. I think they just do it naturally. We do it purpose driven because we have to, just to touch that many people, and that's why we spell it out on our website. But again, there definitely is assimilation, and I think that's why it's so fun to work together.
For sure. Well, a couple of companies with phenomenal culture here, and I did want to establish that before we got on to talking about the nuts and bolts, because I feel like it's such an important part of both of the companies now after listening, Adam, to you and Jordan both talk about it. But I am always excited to hear about new technologies, breaking boundaries, inventing new things that move the trucking industry forward. And I know that over at Wabash, you guys are always kind of trying to innovate and bring new technology into the marketplace. I kind of want to open it up to both of you guys. Jordan, we can start with you, but can you give us a little peek behind the curtain of some things that are maybe around the corner or some things you guys are working on to advance the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the primary things we're working on right now, Marcus, is telematics. It's a big buzzword in our industry, right? And basically what telematics is, we want to be able to increase the information that our customers can receive from their tanks. And that information comes from, in the form of electronics on a trailer transmitting data back to, headquarters, to whoever may want to see it, or dispatch. And that data could be the current temperature of the product in the trailer. It could be the exact location and coordinates of the trailer throughout the U.S. And so those are just a couple examples of what that telematics can do. And we've been working, our product engineering team has been working with our customers to kind of determine and establish what our customers need. We just don't want to go into a project with, we want to go into a project with our customers' needs in mind. And we want to meet our customers' needs. So we've been talking to our customers to determine what would benefit them. And so that's kind of the phase we're in right now. And the next phase is to determine what actually we bring to the table in terms of the telematics. So,
Gabe, I have to go to you here. When you hear telematics and you hear about these kind of new innovations and ideas coming out of Wabash, what's going through your mind?
Just how do we maintain some of these new things? Like they say, the temperature gauges and the things. But yeah, telematics are huge. Having the data in front of us, so we can make the right decisions going forward. Right now we do PMs on a time basis, on a days, and so maybe that trailer is sitting out here. Maybe it hasn't ran for 15 days. Well, we should probably be doing those off a distance, how much the trailer has driven, but there's no real good way to do that right now without some sort of telematics, and having that stuff put on at the factory would make it a lot easier on everybody. So.
For sure. Now, Adam, over to you here. Another just short excerpt from the website. It says here, with a full line of stainless steel and aluminum tank trailers, we serve a wide range of industries. Our tank trailers feature the longest asset life and highest residual values in the industry. Can you talk a little bit about that? Longest asset life, highest residual values in the industry. Those are really big deals for people running giant trucking companies. They want their trailers to last, and then they want to be able to get something out of them once they're ready to upgrade. How does Wabash kind of take that all into consideration and provide great asset life and high residual values?
Yeah, absolutely. It all comes down to the design. So we have a established design that's been proven over the last 30 years. The things that I'm going to note here are truly things that only Wabash does. So we have our upper framing. We weld directly to the barrel on the trailers. The barrel is your structure. So if you can connect to that barrel with your framing, it promotes a stronger point to the ground. So your head don't have as much flexing and pulling on the framing itself, because it's pulling on that barrel. It promotes a longer life for the trailer. We're the only ones to do it in the industry. We have an integral sump for unloading that pulls the sump as far back as you can physically pull it on a tank trailer. What does that do? That reduces the heel left over in the tank trailer, so that there's less opportunity for contamination or corrosion. It allows you to fully unload that tank trailer. It takes extra time through our shop. Both of these items do, but they do promote that longevity and the resaleability with the trailer. The final thing we do is, and this is a recent change in the last few years, is we use 2205 heat panels, which is a high corrosion resistance, high tensile strength. What we've seen recently is that chlorides that are used to clean boilers to push steam into the heat panels were actually causing corrosion from the inside out. So we switched from lower grade stainless, which is the industry standard, to 2205. It's not going to be impervious, but it gives you a lot better opportunity. So those are three very high high level items that we've changed or that we have in our design, that really set us apart for longevity and for resellability.
And I guess so. And it makes sense as to why so many trailers that I see out there on the road have your logo on them, because they last longer, because they're built better. I mean, it's all pretty simple when you break it down like that. And I also do love, I left out a little bit of the excerpt there, but it says that our tankers are designed to safeguard communities, the environment, and the health of consumers. You can tell that that's a very important part of what you guys are doing over there at Wabash as well. And I just have to ask you a little bit off the topic. Jordan, I'll go to you first, and then Adam, I'll ask you, do you die a little bit inside if you're watching a video online and you see one of your beautiful trailers that somebody forgot to vent and it just crunches like a pop can? I'm mesmerized by these videos, and I've talked to enough liquid drivers now to know that, they're Johnny on the spot with this stuff, but it happens out there sometimes. What does it do to you when you see it, Jordan?
Well, it's very cool to see. First and foremost, it is very cool to see. But part of me goes to that. Even as great of a catastrophe that is, we can repair it. We have service centers throughout the country that you can take a major catastrophe like that, an implosion, so to speak, is that we can repair that. You can actually resection those barrels. And you can repurpose those barrels and using them again. Obviously, first priority is hopefully everyone's okay.
Right.
There's no major accidents on the highway. Everyone's okay. But second thing is, hey, how do I get my customer to bring that tank back on the road? And how do we get it fixed to be able to haul product again for them?
I would have never guessed that you guys could salvage that. And so I feel like the answer I just got here is, you don't see a tragedy as much as you see an opportunity. Let's get that thing repaired. Let's get it back out there on the road. I love that.
And first and foremost, everyone is safe and sound.
That's true. Yes. Always our first concern, obviously. Yeah. Adam, how about for you, man? You see an opportunity there too? When you see something like that happen, obviously we're concerned about the safety. Sometimes we have to feel like it might be operator error or something like that. But just knowing that you guys built such a beautiful product and something like that happened to it, does it get under your skin at all? Or are you like Jordan and you're like, man, if everyone's safe, let's get it back out there on the road?
Yeah, absolutely. Safety is number one. That's the first thing that goes to mind. Anytime, not just a suck-in or implosion, is anytime you see an accident, just, drivers really run this country, so you really worry about their safety. You worry about everybody's safety, but you want to make sure they're safe out there. But then why? Why does it happen? Can we take a deeper conversation to better support this going forward? Is it a specific product, specific temperature? So not only fixing the immediate issue in the abilities we have at our service centers, but taking a deeper look at root cause and understanding what can we do in this specific instance to maybe prevent it going forward. And so that's where my head goes.
That's great, guys. Thank you. I appreciate that. I know, that was probably a little bit of an uncomfortable question, but I had to squeak it in there because researching the tankers, as much as I've done over the past, few months here working with Liquid, those are just videos that you can't avoid from time to time. And I've always been kind of fascinated by that. So I appreciate it. Gabe, I want to go to you here because you've been characterized to me before as a guy that's really good with tinkering with things. You like to take things apart, put them back together. Can you talk to me a little bit about that aspect of a Wabash trailer? It's obviously a well-built product. Have you gotten in there with your hands and really, taken some things apart, put them back together and found real reasons as to why they're such a better trailer than other options that you might have out there?
Honestly, Marcus, I don't really get in and put my hands on them much myself anymore. When I was younger, I did, but not so much anymore. I just listen to our techs and what they have to say about the problems they're facing, and then I try to help them solve the problems. I'll get with Jordan, if we have an issue, and then we'll try to resolve it together.
Sure.
So that's kind of how we handle it now. I might go look at the problem after they have it apart, and then, get Bo let Bo talk to Jordan and the guys at Wabash or Adam directly, or if I have to get involved, I will. But I like to still be involved in the specking and trying to make things safer and more efficient. So that's kind of where I come in.
Okay.
It's just making changes to the spec itself to make the trailer safer. I don't know.
Well,
I guess I'm at a loss there, so you can cut that last part out.
it's no problem, because I think it might have brought us to another question that I can ask that might be a little bit better to set you up for it. What kinds of speccing options have you been kind of looking into? Is there anything that you're looking to see advance with the trailers? Maybe something that you can talk to Jordan and Adam here about that you'd like to see in the future, or a change that they may have made in the past that really advanced things for liquid trucking? Anything like that?
Oh, there's multiple things that we've worked on recently and farther back. Most recently, we had some customers complaining that the fall protection on our trailers were getting in the way of their load racks, and they were going to start rejecting any trailers with the fall protection on them. So we simplified that on the spec and made it a little less invasive, although we didn't really want to. We kind of had to, just to support one of our biggest customers. We've made some changes to our acid specs, our acid trailers. Those are highly corrosive materials, and they thin the trailers out. So, we've moved to thicker gauge shell, some thicker gauge piping, just to kind of promote the longevity of those tanks. I don't know, here about 6-7 years ago, we decided to change everything, change our brakes. So we're speccing everything with 100% disc brakes now for safety. As we've gotten into the food grade side of things, over the years, we decided to get rid of the clean out ports on top of the tanks, because that's just a place for contaminants to hide. We've just worked on a lot of different little things over the years. Another thing that they've been good with is like the upfitting of the pumps. They built us a trailer. We upfitted the pumps here, kind of came up with a baseline. They came, took pictures of everything. And so now we just ship the pumps to Wabash. They have all their notes and they upfit everything. So when we get our trailer here, it's ready to go and ready to hit the road and go to work.
That's so cool. I love that there's that kind of customer service there. I mean, you guys are literally working together to make sure that the trailers work for everybody out there with liquid printed on the side of them. So I think this is such a cool peek behind the curtain of how the two companies work together. A lot of times from an outside perspective, you might think that every one of these trailers that you see driving down the road is the same because it's got the same logo on it. But really, Wabash has put in a lot of time and figured out exactly what Liquid needs so that they can make those, minor changes to fit Liquid's business. And I think that's really cool. Gentlemen, we are kind of running out of time here, so I want to make sure and give everybody a chance to say anything else that we haven't gotten to. We still do have some time left, so don't worry about keeping it short. Adam, I'll start with you. As a director of specialty sales for Wabash, again, thank you so much for being here today. Is there anything else that we didn't get to that you want to mention, or a message that you want to send to anybody that might be listening? If so, the floor is yours.
No, I'll just echo what I've said so far today. I mean, for those listening out there, I think OFC Liquid Trucking is a great company to work with and from our experience work for, and it's been a pleasure again watching it grow, and really appreciate you all bringing us on today and giving us this opportunity to express that. So thank you again.
Our pleasure. We loved having you. Jordan, on to you. Same thing. Any final thoughts before we let you go?
Yeah, as Adam said, I think, this is an awesome industry that we work in. I never would have envisioned myself in this industry, but there is a lot to learn. There's something new and exciting every single day. So for anyone out there that is looking for work and needs a job, do not hesitate to reach out to Liquid Trucking or Wabash. It is a very fun industry to be in. And we tell you, you're always learning, you're always growing. And so, don't be afraid to make the jump.
I love it. And I didn't mention this earlier, but I should have. OneWabash.com is where you can find information on this. You guys have a phenomenal website. If you want to learn anything about the company, that's where I'll direct you, because there's more resources there than I even had time to consume in preparation for this interview. So, Gabe, real quick, before we let you go, anything that you want to add to this?
Not really, Marcus, other than, Wabash and Bulk has been a great partner for us. And, we couldn't be happier with our relationship with them, and they support our business. So I wouldn't be afraid to give them a call for your tanking needs.
Well, there you have it. Adam Quinn, Jordan Kastein, Gabe Schmidt. You guys are awesome. Really appreciate the time today. Head on over to onewabash.com if you want to check out some of the offerings, or maybe even get yourself a gig. And of course, just for plug's sake, liquidtrucking.com is where you can find out everything you need to know about Liquid. Gentlemen, we'll get you back on the podcast in the future again. This went really well. Thank you.
Thanks, Marcus. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Next up here on the Liquid Trucking Podcast, got one of my good friends and Liquid driver, Tony Brown, back on the show. Haven't caught up with you in a while, Tony. How's it going out there?
Oh, it's going pretty good. Just basic stuff out here, Marcus. Just idiot drivers.
I hear you. Where you at? Where are you headed today?
I'm actually back in Nebraska right now. I'm headed back to the yard. I just left Salt Lake City yesterday morning and headed back to the yard with a load of magnesium chloride that the customer doesn't want until Friday, so headed back to the yard with it.
Okay, just gonna sit there for a few days, or it's gonna sit there for a few days before you take it back there, I assume.
Yeah, they'll probably have one of the other drivers take it, and they'll send me out on something else. That's about usually the way it works. That way they keep us running, and we're not just sitting.
Cool. I get it. Well, are you starting to see like the signs of summer out there, Tony? I'm noticing it was like somebody flipped a switch in the Pacific Northwest last weekend. We'd been nothing but like mid 40s and 50s and rainy, and all of a sudden, starting on Friday last week, it was 84 degrees here, and that was a drastic change. Are you seeing that in your travels? Is it starting to look a lot more like summer than it is winter out there right now?
It is, except for Thursday going across Wyoming. It was, here it is, the first third of May, and it was snowing across Wyoming and part of Utah.
Yep. And I'm sure Idaho got some of it. I know up in the northeast corner of Oregon, where my family's from, they got snow like a week ago or so, but they also had 80-degree weather today. So the mountains are trying to break out of it, but they're going to have a little bit tougher time than the rest of us in the lowlands, I think.
Yeah, I know my wife's already, bearing it to me that she's like, yeah, it's already getting down in the 80s. And she said there was one day, and her opinion was it was in the 90s. But of course, the weatherman, and they're like, no, it's not that hot. But for her, it was hot, because she finally got, after 2.5, almost 3 weeks, so much rain we've been getting down in our parts, that she finally got to go out and mow the jungle, which was normally our yard.
Yep. I had to do that over the weekend too, Tony, and if I'd have let it go one more day, I'd had to bail it.
Yeah. My wife was talking about, was joking and saying something about calling our neighbor to come bail our yard like he does our pasture.
Yeah, man, it was wild out there. I mean, the rain will do that once the weather warms up a little tiny bit, and then you get like 3 straight weeks of rain. It's like walking out into a rainforest, and I hate it. I can't tell you how much I dislike yard work, and I've always been like that. And I think, my full-time job as a kid was helping my dad do all the honey-do list stuff that was around the house. So I got my fill of it before I ever bought my own house. And that sucks, man. I hate it. I don't feel, people always tell me, don't you feel good when you get done and you come in and it looks so nice? Absolutely not. I feel worse than when I walked out there. Look at me.
Yeah. See, the thing for me is I love working outdoors. My wife, a couple of years ago, we bought her a brand new lawnmower, John Deere zero-turn mower. She always gets the most expensive gifts on my birthday. And they're supposed to be for her, but I'm the one that uses it everything the majority of the time. So I like to get out there and do the yard work. 40 acres, so I'm I'm taking care of a lot more than just a little bit of front yard. I've got shops and barns to mow and weed eat around. I got fence line to clear.
Wow.
I have a lot to do. I'm at the point I'm about to hire some local high school kid while I'm out on the road to come out and just keep it my fence line maintained.
Sure. No, that's a lot of work, man. 40 acres is a big plot. Are you guys growing anything out there? Are you raising any livestock or anything like that? Or you just kind of leave it natural and enjoy the beauty? What do the 40 acres serve you for?
So right now it's mostly just enjoying nature. Like I said, I do have my neighbor. We do a 50-50 split because I have the land. He's got the equipment. He'll come and cut it and bale it. And then he sells it, and I get 50% of it.
Oh, great. That's a hell of a deal.
Yeah. And I don't have to do nothing other than try not to drive across it and go play in the mud too much, so I don't tear it up.
Which I know that's hard for you with all the project cars you're working on, right?
Yeah. It gets pretty wild. But no, when I was younger, we used to run livestock out there. We used to have an ostrich farm.
Really?
When I was growing up. Yeah, we used to raise and breed ostriches.
I heard those things are kind of mean.
You heard correctly. You heard correctly. They can be downright mean. My grandfather had a female, a hen, that he named her Pincher because he wasn't paying attention, and she got a hold of his ear and almost ripped his ear off.
Oh my God, my skin is crawling right now. Because they're so much more powerful than what they look like. First of all, their legs are wicked strong, and there's a place here in Oregon, you might have driven by some billboards before up and down I-5, but it's called Wildlife Safari. It's actually out on closer to the 101, the Pacific Coast Highway, but they have all sorts of different, actual like jungle animals. They have ostriches and zebras, and the lions are clearly tranquilized, but it's a zoo that you drive through, right? You're in your car the whole time and you're kind of driving through the habitat.
We've got a couple of those in Oklahoma.
Okay, yeah, so you're familiar, and they give you like a soda cup, like a fountain cup full of like dog food or cat food or something. And you can hold it, and the damn ostriches will stick their head in your car and eat out of the cup. And I remember those things, like my dad, he smoked at the time, and we'd rolled the windows up because us kids were terrified. And the ostriches saw his cigarettes sitting underneath up on the dash under the windshield and started pecking at the windshield, trying to get through it. These crazy dinosaur birds, man. I don't know how you lived with them for how many years?
Oh, it was several years until they wound up reaching the slaughter market, and whenever they reached the slaughter market, the bottom of that market just completely dropped out. It cost more to keep them alive than they were worth at that point.
Oh, that's a shame.
So the ostrich boom just completely tanked. It was a really good thing. My grandparents made a lot of money in the ostrich industry. Along with one of my grandfather's brothers, they made a lot of money in that industry. And then once it hit the market, it just collapsed. There was nothing left of it. So all these big ostrich farms that used to be around the Midwest are all gone now. There's still a few people that have some, but they don't have. We used, I wouldn't say you ran them like cattle because they had to be a little bit more confined.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't real free range. They were pinned, but they still had a lot of room to move. Everything was set up for that situation, for those confinements. But the ostriches, so everything now gets you can't run them like you used to run cattle, where you'd have multiple heads of them. It's just not cost efficient anymore.
Sure.
Now, people that have, 5 or 6, 10 of them on a petting zoo farm, that's a little different. But when you're trying to make an actual business out of them, where it's just those, you just can't do it anymore.
Were they raised for meat and for their eggs? Is that kind of how they were profiting off of them when your grandparents were doing it?
Yes.
Okay.
Ostrich meat is probably one of the leanest meats that you can get a hold of. And even though they're a bird by species, they're not a white meat. They're actually a red meat.
Interesting. Maybe that's what makes them so damn mean.
Yeah, and they're extremely lean meat. If you don't like your burgers, pink, you don't want ostrich. Because if you try to cook them all the way through, you will burn. You've got a charcoal brick.
Yep, hockey puck.
Yep. So we would have to actually add a little bit of beef to it, just to keep from just completely burning them to nothing.
Yeah, that helps, man. Like I will, I'm an elk hunter, and so many times there will be elk meat in the fridge, and my wife and I'll eat that as a beef substitute, pretty frequently, and it's very much the same way, about 20 grams of protein to every 1 gram of fat. So you got to be real careful with it. It doesn't really sear that well because there's no fat in it, and so a lot of times what I'll do if I'm going to do an elk steak like in the frying pan or something, I'll rub it down with buffalo tallow or beef tallow and get a nice layer of fat on the outside of it, so it has something to kind of stand between that and that charring that you're talking about. It's tough to cook lean meat well, but I think once you play around with it a lot, kind of like it sounds like, I know you have, you kind of figure out some tips and tricks for sure.
Yeah, just like whenever I'm an avid deer hunter, so whenever I process my whitetail deer, I actually have pork tallow, a little bit of pork fat added.
Okay, that's smart.
And when I'm grinding it up, when it's being ground and mixed in, that way you can cook it without it just completely burning to a hockey puck.
Yep. I know in the past we've had the butcher mix some beef suet in with our ground elk meat when they're grinding it for us, because it kind of turns it into, it doesn't turn it into an 80-20 or anything like that. Like it might be 10% fat, so it's still really lean, really good for you.
Yeah.
But it helps. It helps the
Absolutely.
cooking process a lot, and it helps the flavor as well. So. Well, on that note, Tony, and miraculously, we magically just kind of walked into talking about recipes.
We did.
You knew we were going to get to that sooner or later, you and I, the way we are when we get together. But you've been...
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You send me lots of pictures for meals that you cook in the truck. I know you enjoy your time in the kitchen, and I think you've brought us a couple of things today to kind of share with the other drivers, yeah?
Yes, I did. I shared a couple of them on our Liquid Trucking Drivers Lounge Facebook page, but I'll go into a little bit more detail on one or two of those in particular. I'll start out with my stuffed burgers.
Okay.
So I will start out with, and if you want to write this down, you can. A lot of my recipes are, I wouldn't say trial and error, but they're going to be to taste. Right. So if you don't like what I'm using in it, you can substitute. You're not going to hurt my feelings, none. Just don't tell me about it. If I don't know, I don't know. Right.
And you don't want to have to tell somebody that changed your recipe that they ruined it. So let's just keep that to yourself and make the changes you need to.
and so some of these, the measurements, I don't carry measuring spoons with me. I use the palm of my hand, and I know from experience, by using measuring devices and pouring it into my hand, approximately how much I'm putting into what I cook.
Okay.
So it's one less thing I don't have to carry in my truck, and it's always attached to me. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Never going to lose a hand.
You got bigger problems. I don't know that you'll be making a stuffed burger if you've gone missing a hand that day. So let's,
So I'm gonna break this down into a 2-person portion size.
Okay.
So, but me at the same time, I like larger portions for myself. So a 2-person portion is 1 for me.
Okay, gotcha.
So I'm going to go with, most people do 1/4 pound hamburgers. I prefer a 1/2 pound.
Okay.
So take 1 pound of ground beef, your choice, preferably the leaner the better, because you're going to have a little bit of oil added to it. So you want to keep it pretty lean.
Okay.
You want a 1/4 cup of diced bell pepper, about 1/4 to 1/3 cup of diced shrimp.
Shrimp?
Shrimp.
Interesting. All right. You've got my attention.
So you can get some cocktail shrimp pre-cooked. But you want to take it, and you can even, I don't like using the little bitty tiny baby shrimp. A lot of times when you go to saute them, they just get soft and rubbery.
Yep. Yeah, bay shrimp are better raw.
Or
That's
chewy.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you can do raw shrimp as well, because it's all going to cook. So you can do raw shrimp, but you want to start out, but you want to dice them into small pieces, really small. If you're taking your average size shrimp, you're going to break it down into about eight pieces.
Okay.
You want it a little finer, do it. You want it a little heavier, it's to your liking, how you want it. You're going to take your bell pepper, you're going to take your shrimp, take some mushroom and chop up some mushroom. You're also going to want to, so that's also going to be a quarter of a cup of mushroom.
Okay.
Throw it in a saucepan with a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, and just enough to coat. You're not deep frying it, so you want just enough to coat the bottom of the pan, keep things from really sticking. Stir your mixture up inside there, which is your bell peppers, your shrimp, and your mushroom. And if you want to add other veggies, you can. But I use 1 teaspoon of onion powder, half a teaspoon of garlic powder, salt and pepper to taste.
Perfect.
And then you're just gonna saute that. Get everything softened up. Strain it over a paper towel, dap it dry. After you've done sauteing it, now you take your hamburger, and take all of that, dump it in, put it all in a mixing bowl. Take about half a cup of shredded cheese of your choosing, throw it in there. You're going to add another pinch of salt, and I like to use a Creole seasoning.
Ooh, yeah.
Because I had shrimp in there. I like to use Creole seasoning.
Okay.
A lot of times I'll add the Creole seasoning when I'm sauteing, and then I'll add a little bit more whenever I'm putting this mixture together.
Okay.
Get it all patted together. So you're just going to sit there and knead all this meat in your sauteed mixture and your cheese, mixing it all together. Then make your 2 separate patties, unless you want to do 4 patties, however you want to do it. Just take those, format your patty, throw them on the grill, cook them to your liking. You've already sauteed the shrimp, so the shrimp's already cooked. Cook them to your liking, and then I like to have a chipotle or a Cajun aioli.
Hell yeah.
And kind of drizzle a little bit of that on there. And sometimes I'll throw that on a bed of rice, or like the photo I sent you, I will use egg noodles and just a little bit of, and it's weird, if I don't use an aioli, I'll just use brown gravy.
Perfect. Oh my God, that sounds so good.
It's ready to go. I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, it kind of stretched it out there, make it seem a little more difficult than it is, but it's super simple. If you don't like shrimp, I did recently, I didn't take any photos of it because I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out. I'm kind of regretting that I didn't. I used some imitation crab.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, see, I would have to stay away from both of them because either one of those things would kill my wife dead because she's allergic to it. But I'll tell you what I was thinking as a substitute was some bacon.
I have done the bacon. I love bacon. Don't get me wrong. I love bacon, but everybody uses bacon.
Sure. Yeah, it's easy.
So go get, and this is one I sent you, substitute the shrimp for a nice, mildly spiced. And it don't even have to be spicy at all. Find you a nice, oh goodness, it just andouille sausage.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh God, yeah. I bet that would be great.
Dice it up real finely and do this. And so instead of doing the seafood, use the andouille sausage.
I love it, man. I love it. And
I even use the Creole seasoning with it.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And that's kind of, that gets a little closer to like the jambalaya, right? That they serve down there.
Yes.
That's all andouille sausage, and it's phenomenal with that Creole seasoning on it. And dude, I'll tell you, when people stuff cheese inside of a burger, Like, there's the people that'll put the huge amount of cheese in so it, like, goos out when you cut it. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, like, what you're talking about. Shredded cheese mixed into a burger. There's almost nothing better, man. I mean, I prefer it over having a slice of cheese on top of my cheeseburger. If I'm the one making it and I have the time to do that, I would much rather have that than a burger with just a slab of cheese on it.
So when I did the andouille sausage burger, I actually, because I didn't have the stuff in the truck with me, I went into Arby's at the truck stop, ordered a sesame seed bun with lettuce and tomato.
Perfect. And then you just got a burger.
Just ordered that. They charged me like $6,
of course,
for lettuce, tomato, and a bun.
Of course.
But and then I had some Munster cheese.
Oh yeah.
I'm a cheese connoisseur. There's no such thing as too much cheese.
Amen, man.
The biggest fight me and my wife, or biggest argument we'll ever have, is who let us run out of cheese. Because you can be making something that in the recipe already calls for cheese. I will double that.
Yeah. Yep. I'm such a sucker for cheese, man. I love it. I knew you and I were kindred spirits long ago, but we seem to keep finding out more that we have in common with one another, you know?
Yeah. So I do, do you like cornbread?
Oh yeah. Who doesn't?
Okay. Take some pickled jalapenos.
Okay.
De-seed them. Run them through, almost make like a relish.
Okay.
Because you just run them through your chopper and make a relish out of it. Make your cornbread seasoning or your cornbread mixture. Add that jalapeno to it.
That sounds good.
Add in some onion powder.
Okay.
And instead of making a large cornbread, get a muffin tin.
Oh yeah, okay. I've seen that before. Little cornbread muffins.
Cornbread muffins. Fill your cornbread muffins up in that pan, and then cube up some pepper jack cheese. Get some small cubes.
Okay.
And then just stuff one right in the middle of it, and then throw that bad boy in the oven.
Man, spicy, cheesy cornbread. Like, you're speaking my language right now, Tony.
And because you have your chili recipe, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong about your chili recipe because I've heard about it. I have a chili recipe as well, and I'll throw it out at you here in just a moment.
Okay.
But I tell you what, you toss in that cornbread recipe of mine with your chili, and your mind just went to a whole. You didn't just go into outer space. You went beyond.
I left the galaxy.
Yeah.
I love it, man. Well, you bet. You know what? We got football season around the corner. That's the only thing I start thinking about early in the summer is that it's almost fall. And this is already on the tailgate recipe list. That's all the convincing I'll take. Okay. I'm doing it for sure.
Absolutely. It's mind blowing. But another quick barbecue, family favorite. I've been requested to make this quite often, and it's real simple. This is, some people say there's a grilling season. For me, there's no such thing as a grilling season. If I can fire up my grill, it's grilling season.
It's grilling season, yep.
Whether I'm doing it indoors or outdoors, I've got a big enough barn that I can fire up my grill down in the shop, and I ain't worried about burning nothing down.
Perfect.
I mean, I've got a wood burning stove in there anyway, so I mean, how much worse could it be? So take you an ear of corn, and you're going to soften some stick butter. You want to soften, throw in some onion powder, and here we go again. You can't go wrong with onion powder, a little garlic powder, some red cayenne pepper.
Okay.
And mix that in with your softened butter. Then you're going to just use your hand, and you're going to slather down those corn cobs.
Okay.
Take your favorite bacon and wrap that bad boy in bacon.
I'm liking
this. Wrap that corn cob in bacon.
Okay.
Then wrap it in foil and throw it on the grill for about 15, 20 minutes on the grill. About halfway through, about every 5 minutes, give them a quarter turn. Pull them off the grill, let them cool off just a little bit, your bacon is going to, a lot of people don't like the bacon because it doesn't necessarily crisp up.
Right.
Because of it being locked in that foil. But with that butter and that bacon soaks down into that, in between the kernels of that corn, and you're on a whole nother level.
So the bacon's almost there just to flavor the corn a little bit and get that fat render down into it. It's like, yeah, you can eat the chewy bacon. That's a little bit of a bonus, but really we're all about flavoring the corn here.
Yep.
Oh my God, that sounds amazing and easy. I mean, that's,
it's super easy, super easy.
Yeah, grilling corn in foil. You got to be not paying attention to mess that up. So that's an easy one. I love it, man. Do you carry a grill with you on your truck?
I carry my little George Foreman grill.
Oh, perfect.
I have the mini grill that I keep in the truck with me. Then I have my little electric skillet. I have a 3-in-1. It's a toaster oven. It looks like a traditional toaster oven, but it's a 3-in-1 because it has it's added in an air fryer.
Wow. That's great.
And unfortunately, I can't use it in or even out of the truck because I wasn't paying attention, and it just pulls a little too much from the inverter, and it doesn't like it. So I've got to use it once for about a couple of minutes and realized, nope, this ain't going to work. I had to do something else. So now next time I go home, my wife's like, just leave it with me. She goes, I'll use it.
Perfect. Yeah, man, it's funny. You got to learn the hard way about some of that stuff. We have, for our tailgate, we have a deep cycle marine battery that we use to run, we have a TV out there and we'll run various cookware off of it. And one day we wanted to do waffles out there because it was a breakfast game. It was a morning game. And we brought the waffle maker out and the deep cycle marine battery wouldn't run it. And I have an AC input in my truck, but it's for like charging your phone or charging your laptop. And my wife just kind of, instinctively went and threw the keys on in the truck and plugged the waffle maker in and kicked out all my fuses that run that particular part of the operation. So, I've learned the hard way.
It'll happen. Yeah, it happens.
Oh, man. Well, Tony, this has been great, man. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your recipes because I know that the other drivers out there are listening and are writing this shit down. And if you're listening to this right now and you make one of Tony's recipes, be sure to send him a picture. And if you've got my digits, send me a picture as well or email it over to podcast@liquidtrucking.com because I'd love to see what you guys come up with out there. And keep the pictures coming, Tony, because it just makes my day. And I always find that on a day that you've sent me a picture of something that you've made in the truck, I try harder in the kitchen because it makes me hungry and I just want to do better.
It gives you that challenge.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. Well, before I let you... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, next time around, as much as I don't like sharing my chili recipe, I will share my chili recipe.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate it. We'll save that one for next time because we are kind of running out of time here. But, if you want to just send it to me personally, I can keep state secrets, Tony. I won't give it to anybody else unless you want me to. Well, Tony, before I let you go, anything else that you want to say, anything you'd like to say to the drivers, Liquid staff, maybe any family or friends listening, anything like that? The floor is yours.
Yeah, to all the drivers out there, just remember weather's warming up. Cyclists are coming out more and more, both motorized and pedal powered. So keep an eye out for those guys. And to everyone else out there and to the company itself, thank you, thank you, thank you. This company, 2.5 years, and to this day, I still couldn't imagine going anywhere else. I absolutely love Liquid. And granted, we have our bad days, and we can't control the loads necessarily, the product and the load. So sometimes that makes you want to choke a Smurf to see what color it turns. But that's not the company's fault. That's not the company's issue. That's nothing against the company. That's just the product in itself. That's the nature of the game, the nature of the beast. Like this stuff I'm hauling right now, almost 11 pounds per gallon, and it has tried to kill me the entire route.
Wow.
But there's nothing we can do about that. That's just how it is. That's the name of the game. But as far as company wide and the way they do us, I couldn't be any happier. I've talked to the other drivers. I've got another one fixing to call the company because he actually wants to get out of owner op and go company.
Wow. Well, I that doesn't surprise me at all with the environment out there in the market right now, and also we've got these possible new regulations that are being tabled right now that could really change things up for owner operators in the future.
Yeah.
Might be better to be driving for a company, especially being a company driver for a company like Liquid. Like that's no slouch of a gig.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's all well said, Tony. I appreciate that. And of course, here at Liquid, I'm sure they're appreciating you going out and finding them good, experienced drivers, man.
I try.
Very cool, man. Well, Tony, be safe out there, please. And can't wait to get you back on here again. We really appreciate the time. And yeah, we'll talk to you soon, my friend.
All righty. It was a pleasure, Marcus. Thanks for having me.
That's going to wrap up episode 27 of the Liquid Trucking Podcast. Thank you all for joining us today. And click and download, click and subscribe. That's the whole reason we're here doing this is for you guys. So when you support us in that way, it just does great things for this podcast. Leave us a review on your podcast platform of choice. If you're out there listening on Spotify or Apple, or maybe you're on iHeartRadio, if there is a place where you can leave us a rating, or you can leave us a review or put a comment on something. We would love to hear from you any way, shape, or form, obviously, but it really helps us out if you put it on those podcast platforms that you're using to check out the podcast here. And of course, if you want to get directly into my pocket, it's pretty easy to do. All you got to do is email podcast@liquidtrucking.com. We're always checking those as well. I want to say thank you to Jordan Kastein and Adam Quinn from Wabash Trailers, and also Gabe Schmidt from Liquid Trucking for coming on here and talking about these stellar tankers that we tow around here at Liquid Trucking with that Wabash logo on the back of them. There's some of the most cutting-edge technology in the industry, some things that only they are doing, and they provide safety and reliability for us here at Liquid Trucking, so we can't thank those guys enough for coming on and sharing some time with us. And of course, Liquid Driver, our old friend Tony Brown, hooking up some recipes and talking a little bit about trailers. But really, with Tony, because of the pictures that he sends me from the road, we're talking about food. It doesn't matter. I've got to talk to that guy about food. And today's episode will show you a little bit why. He joined me on a last-minute notice. So a huge tip of the cap to Tony out there for really coming through in the clutch for me this week. We also appreciate every single one of you that's out there representing Liquid Trucking, listening to this podcast. If you don't work at Liquid Trucking, but you are listening to this podcast, but you think you might want to work at Liquid Trucking, well, there's a place for that. It's liquidtrucking.com. Stop by the website and check it out. See everything that this phenomenal company has to offer. You heard the guys from Wabash talk about it. It's more than just, Liquid gets their liquid to the Liquid customers on time. Wabash is working with Liquid because it's such a great company. They've got such a great culture, and they take care of their employees. Those types of mindsets go a long way in the trucking industry, and we're here on this podcast every single week to help bring that story to light and show you why Liquid Trucking is at the forefront of the trucking industry when it comes to customer service, culture, equipment, all of the things, all right? And we're very happy here, the podcast team, to be a part of Liquid Trucking in this right. So thank you, everyone out there from top to bottom at Liquid. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your efforts in adding to this podcast. And we want you all to stay safe and keep the shiny side up out there. We'll see you next week on the Liquid Trucking Podcast.
Thanks for tuning in and being the gold standard of drivers on the road. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel and tune in next week for another episode of the Liquid Trucking Podcast.